Yes.
So, yeah, okay,
We
great.
are here.
Yeah, so we have several presentations, and I think quite enough time to listen all of them and to make some discussions. And we will start with global topic with presentation of Sierpa Sunderland about sustainable development and global challenges. So please, the microphone is yours.
Yes, thank you. I'll try to share the screen. Can you see it?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, I'll try to enlarge it a little bit. All right. Come on. Okay, now it should be on the full side. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about sustainable development, the history and the challenges which companies are facing today. So this paper has been written together with my colleague Kari Lilja, and we come from Satakunta University of Applied Sciences, Finland. We are now on the west coast of Finland, and the weather is really nice. It's plus 25 almost, and very nice weather. Okay, but let's go to the topic. So sustainable development, it has been on the discussions with business for years, and it is coming an emerging topic. And this has several points which we have to take into account. So the contemporary climate worry and fear of greenhouse phenomena, they have raised the interest in sustainable development. But most of the business activities that are stated to follow the thesis of sustainable development, they are approaching single topics like pollution, climate, carbon neutrality, usage of fossil fuels, microplastics, and equity. But when we are dealing with the current situation with 17 sustainable development goals, we can't stick into one topic only. We can't just pick up the raisins from the bunny. So we have to do something else. And how to then apply this sustainable development into business, that is a tricky question, because first of all, we might understand the sustainable or sustainability in a different ways. And we can't just do it that we take a small bite of here and there and forget everything else. So it is a question of holistic approach. So we have to take into account all the aspects which we have now inside this sustainable development. But first, a couple of words how the sustainability can be seen in the historical views. So we have to go back long time ago, and even in the Egyptian, Mesopotamian, Greek and Rome times, the discussions were there, and not perhaps with the name of sustainability, but anyway, integrating the nature and human activities together. And the sustainability discussions, they have been promoted by several occasions. And for example, if we take the Enlightenment period, when the discussions revived and the sustainability term was somehow hidden in the agenda. And then, of course, after the Second World War, there has been debate going on ever since. And sometimes the discussion is deeper, sometimes you almost forget the whole sustainability theme, but somehow it's every time it's coming and popping up again. So historically, if we think about the situation, so starting from 1960s, so not going to the very long history backwards. So we had this kind of severe environmental problems, like these oil spills in 1969, which created a need for doing something globally also. And we had the Stockholm 1972 conference, and that was the time when these economic, environmental, and social issues were raised on the agenda. Then there has been, of course, this Brundtland report, 1987, which is the kind of basic document stating about the sustainability, and at least those three pillars relying on that one. There have been different kind of models of sustainability, triple bottom line and others, and declarations. And before the current 17 goals of sustainable development, we had also period when we checked similar topics, but with only 10 goals. And the results of that period were not good in a way that there was plenty of things to do. So that's why in 2015, the United Nations created the Agenda for Sustainable Development with these 17 goals and 169 targets. So plenty of targets are to be found there. Some words about the models. So how to see the sustainability? Maybe in the early time it was just separately discussed about social, environmental, economic issues. But later on, we somehow managed to understand that these are interlinked together. So the upper model tries to explain your house with 3 pillars, and the house is not going to be in one piece unless all these pillars have the equal weight. Then we have had these triple bottom line models combining environmental, economic, and social things together. So the sustainability is somewhere in the middle where all these cross each other. Then another type of model showing economy, social, environment things in this kind of circles, but there has been some indications that perhaps we don't know how to interpret what is the connection between different themes in this model. So this model is maybe the most commonly in use. And if we think about the milestones, how we reach these 17 ones. So just taking about this Agenda 21, you most probably all know it, and what is said there in this sustainable development. But when we think about companies and their role in sustainable development, so all those 3 elements, so environmental, economic, and social, they has to be taken account in the production lines, and also very importantly, they have to be reported. And that's why there is at least one, given one of the reporting tools, Global Reporting Initiative. It is already from the year 2000, and especially big companies use it widely. Check the number of companies who have given the information on sustainability to this initiative. Today the number was some 10,000, but it doesn't mean that this kind of reporting tool is only for big companies. You can apply similar kind of systems and utilize the created models. Of course, you can use also some other reporting tools like standards, ISO standards, or then you can report carbon footprints or handprints. It depends on the company, how they want to report their actions. But these 17 goals doesn't mean that the company has to follow or give impact on all of them. No, they can just concentrate on something, but still bearing in mind all the others. And why we need this one? So sustainability is the basis element together with responsibility and ethically, if we think about companies, to be able to grow, and which once again means that the companies are able to give jobs to people. And the problem here is that the growth itself is not the problem. The problem is how these sustainability, responsibility, and ethical things are interlinked into the company operations, and how companies show their responsibility and sustainability. And that is a tricky question. And each company has to think about how to solve this kind of actions in their business plans and everyday work. So there isn't one single solution how to explain it. So it depends on the company and the targets and the global scale. Then another form which companies nowadays very much like is the circular economy. So this is a model you can see from the Ellen MacArthur Foundation. So there are two different kinds of circles. So the biological circle and the so-called technological circle. So we are moving from the linear, so taking in raw materials, making products, and then it's waste. We are discarding that one and moving towards circular economy, where the material flows until there isn't any other way than throw it away. So you can see very many actions how companies can utilize these principles there. So nowadays we have also linked the digitalization into the picture, because companies collect data very much, and that data has to be used also in this circular economy model. So that means that companies, they have to develop their work and form some other kind of sustainable ecosystems, not sticking into the traditional ones. And the business opportunities then, based on the previous picture, there are very many ways. And in Finland, the Finnish Innovation Fund, Sitra, has been forerunner in this circular economy thing. And you can see different forms which companies can utilize. So they can renewability the actions, they can use sharing platforms. Product as a service is one form for this, and product life extension and recycling and resource efficiency, of course. And if you want to have all those examples, there are hundreds of them in our Sitra pages. So how the companies, small and bigger ones, how they are dealing with circular economy and sustainable issues. Some of the solutions are very simple in a way, but very usable for any kind of companies. So companies definitely have some examples how to utilize this circular economy sustainability issues in their actions. And then finally, this final slide about rethinking the ownership. That is the question that people, they don't want to maybe buy everything themselves. They can share it, they can use it together. There are different models, business models to the ownership. So that the main difference to circular economy, so this is in a kind of second step to the ownership, is that the service provider takes the responsibility for the whole lifetime of the product. You can see different actions here. So this is the legal ownership, operation and maintenance, and production lines. And you can sell the product as a service. You attach additional services there. Your performance is as a service, material as a service, or function guarantees. So plenty of different kind of options which the companies can utilize. So options in explaining the companies how they can utilize sustainability, they are huge. And the opportunities are huge because that is also some kind of competitive advantage to the companies to show their actions transparently and respect the nature, respect raw materials, respect their staff members, and also their customers and stakeholders. So it is a holistic system, and we all have to understand the nature of sustainability as a three form, so environmental, economic, and social things together. So this paper has been written in one of our projects run together. So this is a Erasmus European Union program. So that sustainability is one theme in water waste, and circular green economy in our field. And if you want some more information, here's my email. Just be free to contact me. Thank you.
Thank you. So we have several questions to you, Sierpa. Thank you, first of all, for your presentation.
Thank you.
And so I think that the first one was Olesya Kochetkova. Yes, you can ask your question.
Thank you. Dear moderator, dear colleagues, the participants of the second international online conference on sustainable development, challenges and opportunities, dear guests and invitees, thank you for the opportunity to participate in this event. My name is Olesya Vyacheslavovna Kochetkova. I have a scientific degree of the Candidate of Sciences in Economics, 2008, from the St. Petersburg State University of Economics and Finance, Russian Federation. I thank the spokesperson for the presentation, and I want to ask my core questions. Purport of my first question is, which inherent elements, from your point of view, should incipient national sustainable finish mechanism for regulating the effectiveness of the innovative activities at an energies industrial enterprises level include? Based on planning systems of the innovative territorial and industrial complexes for amplifying Finnish leadership in advanced manufacturing. What does it mean? In other words, what kind of sustainable development mechanisms for the innovative sector of the economy at the Finland level do you suggest? And the second question includes the following provisions. What kind of economic, technical and technological and societal factors determine an interrelation between organizational capacity of the nature-based solutions in the area of effectiveness of manufacturing bases in Finland and the innovative infrastructure of the sustainable ecosystems building on ubiquitous digital transformation? Thank you for attention and your answers in advance. Thank you.
Yes, thank you for the questions. They were tricky ones indeed. And if I understood the first one right, so it was a question about the innovation innovation, how it is done, and how the government will foster, for example, innovations. So I think that companies are nowadays driving towards sustainable strategies also in their actions. And then we have these kind of funds like the Finnish Sitra, so if innovation fund, and that is very key element in creating the innovations, because the companies can apply also some fund for creating new type of services or products or innovations. And though when they get a finance, for example, to their trials, they are, in a way, they are obliged to present their solutions. And that fund system is very good also if we think about universities and vocational institutes, because the same fund also gives project fund for certain innovative projects. So when we try to teach our students, for example, or companies or teachers, we can find money for that. So making experiments and gaining new innovations. And I would say that if we take our university, for example, we do a very tight, or we have very tight connections with the industry. So we develop all the time the products and systems together with the companies. So, for example, our students, they get the chance to take part in these kind of projects at the very first years of their studies. So I would say that our government has done a pretty good job towards this sustainability. And then our ministries, they have also forced their agencies to create some kind of sustainability programs, like the Ministry of Education and Culture, which expects that the university world creates sustainability programs and sustainability innovations. And then your second question was about the infrastructure, if I understood it right, once again. So yeah, can you explain it a little bit more? What do you mean? Do you mean how the nature is integrated in the innovations, or what?
My question is about interrelation or interdependence between organizational capacity of the nature-based solutions and the innovative infrastructure of the sustainable ecosystems in Finland.
Yeah, we have always taken care of our wastewaters, for example, if you mean that kind of things, and for example, the nature-based solutions for stormwaters and other that not so dirty waters, they exist, and there are plenty of studies going on how we can recycle water, how we can utilize the nature. And for example, with this project, which we are partnering, this wastewater waste and circular economy, we have created programs how to utilize the nature in developing these sustainable structures, for example. Not only to treat wastewaters or that kind of waters, but also how to keep the rainwater or utilize the rainwater in natural systems. So saving, for example, that clean water if you want to gain much power from that kind of solutions. Okay.
Thank you very much for your presentation, excuse me, and your answers. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So more two questions, and I think we should go to the next presentation. So Julia Krause, do you have a question?
Yes, I have a question. Thank you, Sierpa, very much for your presentation. I have a little bit provocative question to you, or maybe to other colleagues, other experts presenting, well, we have now here at the conference. You said, well, you spoke about those 17 SDGs, and you said that companies, well, can choose those goals they want to work on. They do not have to follow all of those SDGs. And my question, this is, well, really a general approach at the moment. We did also research, and we found out that lots of companies pay attention really to CO2 reduction or energy management, because those goals they really bring them some economic benefits. And but it sounds to me a little bit like cherry picking. Yeah, is it really a good approach? Well, to choose just some goals and not to tackle all of them. Thank you.
Yeah, the case is so that I said that starting from the point you can just pick up a couple of them, but don't forget all of them, the whole big picture, because if you think wide enough, you can find the interlinks between these targets or goals, and you can't do another thing without an effect on the other theme. So I have checked a couple of big companies, for example, and some of them only mentioned in their strategies 3 or 4 of them, but still their actions are the kind that they benefit all of them, all of the 17 goals. But my own vision is that starting from a couple of ones and then increasing on the number of official targets there. So you can concentrate on a couple of key goals, and then you can have a minor pressure on the others. So within years, you can of course create more and more goals which you can tackle. So maybe the question is so that some of the companies, they are really willing just to concentrate those ones which give you either visibility or then some kind of business benefit. But that is not the case. So you have to think about the whole system, and what I think companies forget is that their own stuff is inside a couple of the goals too. Their stakeholders are there, their customers are there. So the whole production and selling and everything is inside there. So it takes time to adjust themselves to this kind of larger thinking. So starting from a couple of and increasing the number within years, that would be maybe the best solution.
Okay, thank you. So, and I think that we have one more question from Peter. Yes?
Yes, it is. Hello, it's Peter Vansborough. So good to be back in this forum. Good to see you all. My question was kind of simple. I do admire what Finland have done around circular economy. I really do admire Sitra as an organization. Could you perhaps elaborate a bit? How do they practically work with the SDGs? How do they measure their circular economy activities around the SDGs? How do they report on them?
Yes, there are several ways how to report it. And at the moment, I think of course, it is the big companies, big public companies, they have to create official reports like GRI global reporting initiative-based reports.
So
But
perhaps
if you,
just Citra, how because I haven't seen anything from Citra on how they are addressing SDGs. Are you familiar?
Yeah, I'm a bit aware of that one, and basically I would say that the Citra has those SDGs there, and the key issue, I think, when we measure something is, so if I take, for example, our university, as an example, because we are now renewing our environmental strategy, and that means that, for example, we have solar panels. They create electricity. We have geothermal heat. We have something else. So we can immediately show how much savings we have got, and we have impact on a certain SDG. So they can be measured, but someone has said that, for example, this global reporting initiative is too much. Yeah. For small companies, it's too much. But then once again, you can concentrate your energy, your water, your raw materials, your waste fractions. Then immediately, then you have to think about what are the networks, for example, where you are working. What kind of global, national, local networks? What is the effect in those ones? So showing clearly that we have this kind of connections related to this. And I think there are more ways to show it, but for some reason, it is just coming, I would say, that companies want to show. So if we take, for example, construction industry, oh my God. That is horrible, you know, the emissions which they create, the concrete and everything. Now they have waken up. So how to develop new materials so that the concrete is not that much polluting anymore, how to create wooden buildings, how to get the savings in that way. And mainly they are measured in the CO2. Or now the handprint is also coming, not only the footprint, but the handprint. And I believe that handprint might be more effective showing to normal people what does it mean. So ordinary people might not understand CO2s, what they are, what they mean, how polluting is that. But if somebody says that our handprint is this one, so we make positive impact, so that would be it.
Yes.
So there isn't yet. So those are under construction. Those measurements, how to do it. And for example, this carbon footprint, we have tools there, but the tools give different values. So now we try to get a tool which gives exactly the same results, because there's also a chance if you have several tools giving different figures, you select the ones which is most beneficial for you. But they are under construction. Yes.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. And so we started with a great discussion with rethinking and changes in mind. And so I think that now it's time to go to the next presentation, which is about education. Yes, reflections on education by Paulo Lyndros, former director of Baltic University program. Yeah, you're welcome.
Thank you. I tried to find my my presentation here to get it in. Sorry, I had it here in the morning, but now I lose it. Thank you, Rodrigo, for taking the tape. commenting here. Now I'm really sorry because I had.
If you want some time to find your presentation, you can make it after other person, okay?
Yeah, maybe I do so because it doesn't work now, the share screen here. Okay, so let's save some time and I will
after
Okay.
after Peter. After
yes.
Peter. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Yes, good afternoon, everybody. I'm sorry for this.
No problem.
Yes,
No problem.
So, ladies and gentlemen.
And I'm just trying to transfer.
Yeah, I mean, Peter.
I'm transferring my presentation to another computer, so I'm not ready for my presentation yet. So perhaps our good friend Rodrigo.
Here, Rodrigo. Yeah.
I'm happy to go if any of you are having trouble.
Yeah.
Not a problem. I just charge 50 euros each.
I did send my presentation to the organizers beforehand, so it can be sent out later. So can I continue now?
Yes.
Yes, thank you very much. Yeah, I have chosen a title here about reflections on education in a time of change. Oh, thank you. And I can also say this is my third conference at Unicon in a row of 3 years, and really feel honored and happy to be with you also this year. And the reflections I have chosen are 6 in number. And if I can have the next slide, please. So I have chosen changes in the educational landscape, some words about that, then about the megatrends, which shape our future in general, something about learning and knowledge, and then about education for sustainable development, some words about internationalization, and finally, I give some deep thought about universities and sustainable development. And if I could have the next slide, please. Here. Changes in the educational landscape. Could say that traditionally and very usually there is a gap between the slowly moving education systems and the shifting demands of employers. And that is necessarily not a bad thing. Sometimes very good that we have this slowly moving ship called the education, which is the big mass, but to some part also education needs to change pretty fast. But looking back over our shoulder, we can see that there has been really big changes in education during the last decades, which include, of course, the digitalization and distance education, and also the shift from the input-based to the output-based education, focused on competencies and skills. And here I would also like to put in the UN decade for ESD, which already has been performed for almost 10 years ago, but from which we can see already, still see the results coming integrated, infiltrated in our educational systems and education. And if I could have the next slide, please. Megatrends in the global future, the main drivers in the global future, I base them here on the World Economic Forum and the International Labour Organization, which seem to have a growing consensus on the traditional digitalization and technology, but also globalization, demography, and climate change. And again, my own remark here is about the SDG goals, which If you want it or not, they are infiltrating in the global debate and the global future trends. In the next slide, please. Learning and knowledge, and this is an area where I've been working pretty much during my more than 40 years in university administration, mostly in lifelong learning. I could see that the roles of learning and knowledge are changing very much. Before, we could have one education and that was enough for a whole working life. Nowadays, we do have a best before date. Unfortunately, society's development is going rather fast. It goes even so fast that at the EU level, you talk about knowledge as the new infrastructure. You're very much dependent on the level of knowledge in our societies and in our working life. We have the buzzwords already heard today about innovation, entrepreneurship. Of course, they are good drivers also for the societal development. And as a corollarium to this, learning becomes a continuous experience and a necessary skill. That is a mandatory element of the working life. Learning to learn becomes really important. I have here citations like no investment without qualification. So that if you do some big investments, you also need to have qualified staff to work with that. And we do not need to work more, but we do need to work smarter. So here, the knowledge, the innovation, the entrepreneurship is really important on the individual level also. At the same time, knowledge also brings us to responsibility. How do we use the knowledge, the skills we have? And on the next slide, please, we have a reminder from David Orr that those who contribute to exploiting poor communities and the Earth's ecosystems are those who have BAs, MBAs, MSCs, and PhDs, and not the so-called ignorant poor from the South. So what do we do with the knowledge and responsibility? I think we come very much into learning and education for sustainable development, ethics, moral. About the lifelong learning, on the next slide, please. We have often defined lifelong learning as something we do outside the mainstream education without qualification. That's a hobby or so. But more or less, this has now, lifelong learning has become a process of knowledge generation and knowledge construction based on both theoretical frameworks and evaluation of information and knowledge. So that is built into the systematic education system. And it's also moving higher up on the strategic agendas of university, because you do need also new student populations. They are diversified. There is competition between universities. We need distance education, which helps us in this reskilling or updating courses and educational models. On the next slide, I go over to education for sustainable development and reflect a bit on that. And only on one aspect, it's very varied, but what I think is very important also at university level is the tension between the known and the unknown. ESD underlines the need of communication of uncertainty and risk, in contrast to the traditional academic evolution of knowledge, which aims at minimizing uncertainty. This is a big leap for education and not an easy step for teachers. Also, sustainable development, which also Sierpa said, I think here is a changing concept over time and focus in different parts of the globe. It could be the problems are connected to demography, aging population, or desertification in Africa, very different aspects in different parts of the globe. The task is, as Arjen Wals writes on the next slide, please, that the task is to create spaces for integrative thinking, consider values and ethics, give a possibility to critique and action, to connect the near and the far in both time, past, present, future, and space, the local, regional, global. Therefore, on the next slide, please, education on sustainable development should be brought closer to real life through a project and problem-based learning, through the involvement of external expertise, and through internationalization of education. And this is my bridge to the next reflection about internationalization. Next slide, please. Generally, one can say that internationalization of education, it widens the educational offer when different kinds of expertise is combined into new programs and courses. So we can also have improve the critical mass in research and enhance the institutional reputation. And as a consequence, there is a shift from the traditional individuals' contacts towards strategic institutional partnerships. And therefore, internationalization should be a concern for students, researchers and teachers. That is, we should change, universities are changing from the activities by the enthusiastic individual researcher to a whole of institution approach. I could go on then on the next slide, please. We have the paradox, which was taken up to the daylight by former rector of Uppsala University once, when she talked about the mobile researcher and the immobile teacher. That is, when you go abroad to a conference, you mostly go as a researcher and you leave the role as a teacher back at home. There are not many conferences or activities for the academic teachers about teaching the difficult subjects, for instance, of sustainability. The Baltic University program, which I've worked for more than 30 years, is one of such network where we have focused also on the role of the teacher. One reason behind this paradox is, of course, that educational systems often are more national or local than the borderless research. Still, I would like to emphasize that we need to provide teachers with the optimal tools, methods to meet the challenges of their future work life. On the next slide, please, we have about, or I reflect about universities and sustainable development. We already know that there are many good examples of university declarations and universities or parts of them certified according to national or international standards. But still, the overall result looks more like a patchwork, and there is room for much more to be done in this area. On the next slide, I listed 3 factors which inhibit sustainability approaches at universities. And one is that the silo thinking and planning is still very dominant. The multi and interdisciplinary nature of sustainability research is still found in the shadow of the traditional disciplinary studies. And this is very true, I guess, for all universities. The globally reduced education and research budgets are a second factor. Courses on sustainability are often voluntary and therefore in the risk zone. And then finally, I have here listed many short-living projects with limited impact, which often a project starts very enthusiastically, but when the project is over, there is no way of, no means of to continue the impact or the activities. And unfortunately, those projects do not have the impact they intend to. On the next slide, please, I again list the gap between universities' activities and where they should be. Among reasons listed are, yes, the curriculum is already crowded, there is not room for any new courses, or what should we take away if we take in something new? This is a discussion often heard. The topic is too demanding, irrelevance of the topic, limited staff competencies, and limited institutional commitment in this are things you often hear when you discuss sustainability at universities. So I would like to finalize with a last slide here. Still, we need a miracle of some kind to be happy, to get the results we expect to have. Some miracle details that would help our universities to get on the track. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, do we have questions?
Yes, I have.
Okay.
May I?
Yes, Alisa Vyacheslaevna, I just ask you to make your question as short as possible and to concretize your main idea, okay?
Yes, I would be trying. Thank you.
Thank you.
Dear Dr. Lyndros, what type of causative variety of the authentic conditions of industrial, economic, as well as innovative contradictions under pandemic should be excluded in order to develop an efficacious education policy at the global economy level and create the indispensable and adequate mechanisms for its irreversible implementation? Thank you for answering in advance.
Yeah, I think that was a global question which would need a global answer, which I think I cannot give you right now. I hope somebody else in the audience could give this answer. No. So unfortunately, I had some problems with the sound also. Yes.
The question from Julia Krause. Maybe not a miracle book, but a framework.
It's a question about your last picture on your presentation. Maybe it's not a miracle, but a framework.
Yeah.
To specify, maybe this is something where I was working, because I completely agree with you that lots of universities do not know where to start, how to go, how to approach, how to tackle all those problems. They want to be those drivers, but they are not able because, well, I think a framework is missing, a model is missing, well, and this is something that I would like to present, well, to our audience. to the, yeah, just an idea.
Yeah, thank you very much. That was good.
Thank you very much for your interesting presentation. We are from
Thank you.
education system and understand most of all from your presentation. It seems to me one of the main problem is the education Paulo needs today business needs, but it's necessary to predict. Follow me. It seems to me it's maybe in predict maybe 5 or 10 years, but education system mostly, in particular in Russian, followed by need business need today.
And also there is this time lag. If you have a new program, if you start a new program at university, it will take you 4 or 5 years before the first master level students are out in the working life. So there's also this long time. There are no quick fixes.
Cross-disciplinary is maybe the main approach. It's simply because not necessarily in one topic. It's necessary more thinking, wide thinking about future. Okay, and I remember I often remember on our education system during Soviet Union. That is fundamental. Not maybe cross, but fundamental, and it means that if the environment, I mean business or business environment is changing, and people, our generation, people could to adopt on this new environment. This is reality, because fundamental includes some main features of different aspects. Fundamental, not only applied. For example, after perestroika, it's necessary to many people of our generation make problem because it's necessary to change profession. Because it's not maybe opposite or not opposite, but some different. And most of us do it. That's why. Thank you very much for your presentation, which is really big. And your idea about maybe conference or some workshop about how to teach, methodology of teaching for teachers is maybe very good. Maybe it's necessary to think about this possibility. Your idea, your suggestion is provide some conference for teachers. Not only say no, we are teaching everybody teach, but nevertheless researcher too. Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you very much. Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry, I was talking about the crucial factor is the presupposition about the accretion of the scientific knowledge in the students within the framework of an evaluative way or logical or psychological point of view and thoughts for education at the sustainable development level. What questions about? Thank you.
Yeah, that's really, mostly I think that several methods are needed. Different ways of evaluating are needed. Also because the learners are different. We are learning in different ways. So, and I think the basic skills and I'm not diminishing the role of the good basic knowledge in our different specific areas, academic areas. That is of course needed, but what we need is to connect, to be able to connect and have the skills to connect different areas. So there, I think in different moments, in different parts of your education, you need to have different ways of evaluation.
Okay, yeah.
Thank you very much. Sorry.
Thank you. Yes, so Paulo, there was one small question in chat, and I think that will be last question for you. What is better, in your opinion? Is it better to make a particular course on sustainable development or implement ideas of SDG in all courses in the university?
I think the trend now is to integrate it in all education, in all the different ways. But I think already from Sierpa's presentation, I think that it's always good to have a good basic knowledge also about the history, about the big picture about it, which is not necessarily, you cannot put it in mathematics or in history or whatever. In an English course, you need to have a basis for that, a basic course for everyone, what I'm after now. But still, I think there is so much into sustainability that it can really be integrated in everything, also mathematics.
Okay, yes.
Yeah.
They can argue, but we should do it. Okay, I see. Okay, so let's go further, and next presentation by Peter Vansborough. So please, you're welcome.
Thank you so much. Can you see my screen here? Profit with purpose? Yes. Excellent. Let me start, and it's a full screen you can see, right?
Well, I think no, because it is on it's
PDF.
open on browser, but not in a PDF Acrobat Reader or something like that.
Let's see what I can do. I think we have to stick to this one. Let me just start.
Yes.
It's a great pleasure for me to attend this conference today. I've really been looking forward to share some of my knowledge with you. My presentation is a little bit more practical, giving some key examples on how I have experience working with the SDGs and how other companies are using the Sustainable Development Goals to meet some of the challenges globally. My name is Peter Vansborough, and I'm the director of the Innovation Center in Denmark. We are part of the Danish Embassy, and I'm located currently in Seoul in Korea. And I've been really looking forward to join this conversation today to give you a little bit of insight on how many different companies are working with sustainability and how they're using the SDGs to measure it. And there's a few very interesting trends now that governments around the world are actually seeing sustainability as a generator to create jobs, prosperity, export opportunity, and branding. And here in Korea, last year in June, they launched one of the biggest green and digital investment packages called Korean New Deal. And the Korean New Deal is very much supporting the SDGs and the green transition in Korea. I will come back to that. But also, if you're not aware, then at the end of May, there will be the Korean government will host a sustainability conference called Partnership for Growth. It's a global summit trying to address some of the many challenges in the development countries and try to come up and promote concrete projects on how the challenge identified can be met by using the SDGs. And of course, I'm also here to learn from you and discuss with you your different views. So as you can see my picture, I'm really looking after the SDG unicorns, and I think that's the way forward to create profit with purpose, looking after the shining stars. So as I said, we are the Danish Innovation Center, and the Danish government have established these type of triple helix bottom line focused institutions. We have 7 centers around the world, and what is really exciting is that we are trying to do public diplomacy, but we have a strong connection to the Ministry of Higher Education. So we have this research focus, this entrepreneur focus, and we are trying to kind of see if we can utilize SDGs to create new partnerships and to create research collaboration around the world. So this is not just like Denmark, Korea. This is very much about how do we make these different innovation platforms where we can share experience from Russia, from Sweden, from Norway, from Finland, from Denmark, in Korea and other way. Our key focus, just to keep you informed, it's very much about the green agenda. We are focusing on health and life science, and very much about the digital transformation. Digital transformation, not just in the cities, but also in industries, and also in areas where it's kind of difficult to monitor and to report what your impact is. And here in the tech space, SDG is a very valuable instrument to communicate about your achievements and also to measure that the impact that people are buying into is also met. So it's very much about the sustainability agenda on tech, smart city, bioeconomy, and of course also circular economy, as mentioned earlier. So let me just come back to this Korean New Deal. What is very exciting is that they are merging the concept on green. They are focusing on digital transformation of the society here in Korea. They are trying to make sure that like one of the focus areas is to specifically go in and energy retrofit public schools and try to invest into better energy flows of schools. But they're using this investment package to actually document the impact of this energy retrofitting, but also merge it into learnings. As we talked about earlier in the presentations, then the sustainability agenda can be extremely blurry and fluffy. But if we are making sure that some of the practical initiative that we are doing is turned into specific learnings in schools, and when we are doing like energy retrofitting of schools, when we are doing that out in the space in real life, we can actually invite our students into playing a role in these type of living labs that we can create. And by getting access to the data, the energy flow, the cost of energy, then we can write it into the curriculum of the public schools, and they can start to get a much better and clear feeling of how it is to be a conscious consumer, and actually understand that everybody, even what age it is, have a responsibility to act more sustainable. And they can actually measure their own CO2 footprint, investigating how much lighting are they using, how much energy are they using in the school. So this is really the key of the Korean New Deal, is to merge sustainability with digitalization and use the digitalization as an instrument to capture the learning, but also the effect of this transition. So I think the Korean New Deal is, for me, a very exciting document, a vision to look into. And I think it's definitely recommendable also in a global context to kind of be inspired on what they are doing in Korea. So I just want to share that like national vision on what is the sustainability trends in Korea. As I mentioned, then the government of Korea is also hosting the second partnership for green growth. It's all about how a group of countries, both from the development and the less development country, can actually create new partnership to accelerate this transformation I'm talking about. P4G is funded by the Danish, the Dutch, and the Korean government. It was the first summit was held in Copenhagen back in 2018. And now it's going to be very exciting. We are deeply engaged in the coming summit. And what P4G is, it's all about partnerships. P4G is having money, funding available, where different private organizations and researchers, public entities can join forces and apply a specific project. Get funding to start it up, get funding to accelerate it. Last funding call, the P4G secretary in the US, they received 650 different ideas. Out of these 650, then they have selected 55, and I think around 20 of them will be presented at the end of May as new P4G projects. So what is it? What type of project is it? And why does it matter in this context? So let me go back to some of the previous projects which have been funded. And let me try to explain why this is interesting in a global context. East Africa have severed a lot of refugees. There is massive refugee camps in Ethiopia. They are not only challenged by pure health and pure water, they have also really been suffering to get sufficient food. In Ethiopia, there is food. It's difficult to grow it. It's difficult because of water, and that is and food production and food systems often collapse. So Sustainable Food Partnership is a joint venture by the Danish dairy company Arla Food Ingredients and the Danish enzyme producer Novo Nordisk, together with Danchurch 8. And they have developed a kind of a biscuit, a very nutritious biscuit, which can be grown locally using locally quinoa seeds. But it's produced with enzymes, so it contains high content nutrition, and it's also produced in a way where it can resist dries and fungus, which are a huge problem in the development countries. So P4G have supported this Sustainable Food Partnership, where they now are making commercial biscuits, which can be sold in shops, also be given to the refugee camps. It's trying to bring in innovation from the enzyme industry, and it's distributed to the poor so they can actually survive in the refugee camps. So this is, of course, to address the SDG 2, zero hunger, trying to eradicate that people are dying from malnutrition and from no food. It is still today a global issue, and we need to be thinking out of the box on how we are creating these new partnerships where we can create new food streams, food production, but also be trying to think about new type of ingredients. Another project, and a very different project, which have been funded by the P4G Secretary, is a very successful zero emission bus rapid deployment accelerator program. It's 4 cities, it's 4 countries in Latin America who have joined forces. And they have joined forces with a common request to try to accelerate green mobility. And some of the cities we have been rolling out in, it have been super difficult to tell the producer of renewable or e-buses that they should come into the market. But creating this type of Sierpa alliance, now they jointly can go out to the companies here in Korea, to Hyundai, to Volvo in Sweden, and to tell them, if you want to develop your e-bus system in our city, we will have funding. We will do public shares, green bonds, to accelerate the transformation or the implementation of e-buses on a massive scale around Latin America. Now the project are together with Global Green Growth Institute in Korea, trying to set up an impact fund, a revolving fund where the cash revenue coming in from the investment in these e-buses are going to be reinvested into the city's e-mobility infrastructure. So we can actually start to see the result. This project has been going on for 5 years, and we can actually see now that it's going way better than expected. They are now already done with deploying more than 3,500 zero emission buses, and in some cities you can actually start to see that the air quality have improved, the accessibility to public transportation have improved, and that people are not stuck in traffic jam and queues. So their life quality is also increasing. And this is really what we're trying to do when we are talking about sustainable cities. This is a needed transition to meet sustainable cities, improving infrastructure, improving life quality, improving the health situation. And this is really a P4G core project. So this was 2 examples of projects which are running globally on the P4G summit. Let me try to make a deep dive on how a SME in a development country can use the SDG to pitch in its business model. Yuvavu Lab are producing these aqua panels, and it's an excellent and low cost invention. It's all solar driven, and it's creating a condensing membrane to extract moist in the air. So it can actually suck out moist in air, and by UV radiation it can kill germs and viruses, and you can basically drink it or use it for irrigation afterwards. This is like a really unique invention. It costs less than $1,500 US. It can be installed everywhere, on a rooftop, on a farm, you name it. So it's a decentralized, renewable drinking water application. It's been developed in India, and how is a company in India trying to differentiate itself? It's actually using the SDG, and it's actually using it very, very clear, because it's not just about the 17 SDGs. It's really about the different subgroups within the SDGs. I think there is around 165 or something like that. And here, this is an example on how this Aqua panel is actually going in and saying, well, we provide affordable and equal water access, and we can, by our panel, produce a certain amount. And this is precisely meeting the SDG 6.1. So when a company like Walmart are having an obligation to report on its environmental performance, then they know what they're buying. And I think this is about how to report and how to communicate about your achievement on meeting the SDGs. And for every company who wants to sell their product, this is like a core example on how you can tell your customers the sustainability achievement by using this specific project. So it's not just about bringing affordable and equal water access, or providing sustainable fresh water, or protecting the water resources aquifer. It's actually much more than that. And that's why when we had the first presentation about should a company address all the 17 SDGs on the same time, or should they actually make a deep dive on the real aspect which matter? And I'm definitely from the school who are saying, do it good on a few, but be very explicit on what you're communicating. If we are just talking about 17 SDGs and we are meeting them and blah, 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 not explaining how and why, then I think we have kind of misunderstood the use of the SDGs. So Aquifer is also going down to the more broader details, saying this is a way to address climate changes. This is a way to reduce waterborne diseases, which are a huge aspect in many developing countries, including India. So this is just an example on how SME are using the SDGs to create profit with a purpose. And as Sierpa did mention, then circular economy is very key to the SDGs, because it's really a very needed way to try to change focus on our perception on waste. I think we all have heard it, that our current view focusing on waste as a linear product need to switch. In Korea, they are focusing a lot on upcycling. They have created a fantastic learning center here in Seoul. It's actually the largest upcycling studio with 65 different companies using different streams of waste. It's a governmental, or it's a metropolitan initiative in Seoul. So the waste streams are coming from the recycling centers around the city. And in the basement of this recycling plaza, there is an area where you can distribute the different waste streams, all furnitures, core wood, plastic, windows, building materials, and then the entire house can now buy these supplies of recycling products and turn it into their new ideas. And of course, this is a massive way to reduce waste, but it's also a way to create new profit. Like how the Old Revolution are doing. They're using this hard plastic, PTT, they can use all PPT from fisher nets, from marine plastic pollution, from, you name it, from any type of plastic. And they can use this PTT to grind it and then create new furniture designs, outdoor furnitures, indoor furnitures in all forms and designs. And this is a very low cost, practical way to upcycle some of the huge plastic challenges that we all are talking about. And we can basically very easily turn our plastic waste into furniture or to any other products. So I think my last slide is a very Danish slide. It's about trust. I think of development and try to address the many challenges which are around the world. We need transparency, and transparency is for me trust. But it's also, trust can also be connected to reporting. Trust can also be connected to how we communicate and brand our solutions. In Denmark, we see trust as a part of our DNA. It's a gold of the Nordic countries. But I think when we're talking about SDGs, trust needs to be measured. SDGs need to be measured. And I think that we need to have a common ground to actually report on these many indicators around sustainability. We have heard about GRI. There are many other sustainability parameters who can go in and measure the effect. But from my perspective, I do believe that the SDGs and the whole regime about the SDGs is actually a practical instrument for all worlds, both the private, the public, the North and the South, to be working on much more structured and aligned sustainability progress. That was all for me. I hope you have some comments or questions, but thank you so much for your attention.
Thank you, Peter. I think that we will have a lot of questions, but what I propose is that your topic is very interesting and a lot of interesting examples. But what if we go to the next presentation, but all your questions you can ask in chat and discuss it publicly or directly in a private way to Peter, because we have only half of an hour and 3 more presentations. Okay, don't you mind?
I think it's a good idea. I think it's a good idea. Let's do that, and I will reply as best as I can.
Okay, so let's shift our discussion to the chat, and we will go to the next presentation by Rodrigo Lozana about collaboration for for sustainability, of course, for sustainability of corporations.
Thank you for that. It's for organizations, not corporations,
Yes.
but never mind. Some people confuse them. I'll try to make it a bit more explicit. And thank you again for inviting me for this 3rd time of being in St. Petersburg, although I've been there only once. I'm hoping that soon we can travel again. And I'm going to be presenting a paper that we published, I think it was this year or last year. I'm confused with the times. It's on collaboration for organizational sustainability, limits to growth, where we developed a factors, benefits, and challenges framework. I'll try to go as fast as I can without really boring you too much. We know that organizations, and we've been discussing 2 main types of organizations or companies in the first presentation, and then higher education institutions, and their parts of organizations. But we have some other types, and I'll come to that shortly. They have been instrumental in driving sustainability. And in the last decade or so, there has been an increase increasing interest in what we call organizational sustainability. And that is focusing not only on companies or not only in higher education, but focusing on the broader perspective on what we refer to as organizations. And we're looking at a holistic perspective, as has been said before. And these are the types of organizations we're focusing on. So civil society, that includes education, non-governmental organizations, religious and institutional. We have also corporations, from the micro to the transnational corporations. And then we have the public sector, or what we call the government, local, regional, and federal. Some people put education in, and civil society, and some on the public sector, depending on which country you are under. This is the framework that we use for most of our research in my research group, where we have, as you can see, several topics that have been highlighted before. So we have, for example, operations, we have research and development, we have the different types of sustainability, so economic, environmental, and social. We also have different stakeholders. We have, very importantly, the time dimension of sustainability as by the Brundtland report. We have recovery, that is usually represented by circular economy, and we have what we call a purpose fulfillment. So, for example, a company would have as a purpose to make a profit, whereas a university to educate students, etc., etc. So we have this as a framework for our research and organizational sustainability. On this particular paper, we focused on collaboration, where collaboration plays a key role in helping organizations become more sustainable. There has been increasing research on the topic, but there's still limited research on collaboration elements, their benefits, and the challenges when we're talking about sustainability. When we talk about collaborations, we talk about a purposeful relationship in which all stakeholders work towards a shared outcome or goal. It relies on sharing and openness by using information, divergent insights, and spontaneity. It may lead to less efficient decision-making and conflicts over resources and technical issues, depending on how much you take it. So that's when we're looking into the benefits and the challenges of collaboration. Usually, it provides much more benefits to organizations than challenges. It does harvest its benefits from differences in perspective. So not everybody just thinking the same, but having different perspectives, different ways of doing things, and then moving towards a common goal. And this is what I've just mentioned. It can help to obtain an optimum for a system where each individual decision promises the best possible gain, but are constrained by other decisions of other actors. So you're trying to reach that optimum according to the decisions of the different actors or players or stakeholders, depending on how you want to name them. We have discovered or detected these different elements. So we have new technologies, for example, through digitalization or other things. We have new business models. We have recovery, so circular economy, for example, by reducing, reusing, and recycling resources. We have also innovation. We have research and education that Paulo was mentioning a little bit, and then we have links to the community. We have a number of benefits, as you can see here. We have optimizing financial and human capital, accessing markets and knowledge, enriching creativity, decreasing the time needed to accomplish objectives, making processes more effective, using action-oriented collaboration, ensuring benefits to all the players or stakeholders, reducing or removing conflicts, and transdisciplinary learning. On the other side of the coin, we have a number of challenges. So, for example, information, who benefits, and the real and hidden agenda, bargaining, free riding, coordination problems, risk of jeopardizing important and unique resources, conflicting needs, relationship conflicts, data conflicts, value conflicts, structural conflicts. Sorry, this should be an O as an operational dependencies between the activities of the different actors. So we're looking at three dimensions, if you want to put it like that. We're looking at the elements of collaboration for sustainability, the benefits, and the challenges. So we carried out a survey, and that was, we ran it between May and November 2018, and we had these different sections on the survey. We have published a number of papers depending on the section, and we are focusing now on this one only. If you're interested, I can send you the papers of the other sections. We sent a database from almost 5,300 contacts from the Global Reporting Initiative plus personal contacts. We got out of that 253 responses for the collaboration for sustainability part. So that's about a 5%. Not extremely high, but we can still get good results from those numbers. We analyzed the data using Friedman tests to rank the variables, comparison between benefits and challenges. We did also multivariate statistical analysis, including principal component analysis. We also did a cluster analysis, and we did all that through SPSS statistics. Here we have the descriptors. So from where do they come? And so one side is on the company side. And so you have the companies, public sector organizations, and then civil sector organizations. 7% did not say. This is on your right. We have the size of the employees. So most of them were on the large side. 78 organizations with more than 5,000 employees. 25% from 1,000 to almost 5,000, and then we have the rest that were small and medium-sized enterprises. We asked them if they have been actively engaged with sustainability, and as you can see, they have been quite engaged with sustainability more than 5 years, whilst we also have some that have recently engaged in the journey of sustainability issues. These, as I mentioned, we had the ranking of the collaboration elements, where on top we have innovation, education, services, and research. Then we have community, technology, and recovery. And on the bottom, we have products and business models. We also did Friedman test to rank the benefits of collaboration, where we have access markets and knowledge, enriched creativity, transdisciplinary learning. Then you have more efficient processes, offering benefits to all the players, ability to optimize financial and human capital, being action-oriented, and on the bottom, we have decreased time to accomplish objectives and reducing or removing conflicts. On the other side, as I mentioned, we did the challenges for sustainability. So we have operational dependencies, information problems, and conflicting needs, followed by coordination problems, risk of jeopardizing important and unique resources, and value conflicts. And then on the bottom, we have these 5 ones. We then did a component analysis to try to see how these different dimensions and the variables in the dimensions would connect to each other. So we noticed that these five, technology, products, innovation, business models, and recovery were in one block that we named business-oriented factor, and we have 3, the ones over here, which is education, research, and community, were grouped in another that we named society-oriented factor. We had on the benefits, one component was extracted because it didn't really fit in the other ones. And then we have a factor loading, as you see here, and we had the same thing for the challenges in order to compare and create our framework. We also did a distant cluster analysis, as I mentioned, and then here you see the loading of the different clusters, where we ended up with 5 big blocks. So we have no collaboration, we have society-oriented organizational collaboration, business-oriented organizational collaboration, optimal collaboration, and the last one that we call wicked collaboration. And I will show you shortly why did we name them like this. So we developed from all the data, we have this, what we call the non-collaboration. So you have no benefits and no challenges, and you do not have anything on the factors. You have what we call the society-oriented organizational collaboration, where it focuses mainly on the society-oriented factors, as I mentioned before. You have some benefits, but more challenges. On the other side, we have the business-oriented organizational collaboration, where, as you see, it focuses on business-oriented factors. You have more benefits and less challenges. We have then what we call the optimal organizational collaboration, that you focus on society-oriented factors, business-oriented factors, and you have a lot of benefits and a few challenges. On the last stage, we have what we call wicked organizational collaboration that focuses both on the society-oriented factors and the business-oriented factors, and you have quite a bit of benefits, but you have a lot of challenges. And that's when we notice that there is a limit to collaboration, and you should aim for this type of collaboration where you have more benefits and challenges. If you collaborate more and more and more on society-oriented factors and business factors, you will face a lot more challenges than benefits, and then you're going to perceive less on the collaboration for sustainability with your different stakeholders. The results provide insight into the ranking of the element, benefits, and challenges for collaboration for sustainability. And we show that an intensification of collaboration increases benefits and challenges, but up to a point. And that is the point that you start decreasing, and then you become more of a wicked organizational collaboration. The organizational sustainability collaboration framework shows the 5 stages that I showed you, and we have an optimal benefits with minimized challenges, the number 4. This framework can help leaders and managers to better engage with collaboration elements, balancing the business-oriented and the society-oriented factors in order to maximize the benefits and cope with the challenges so that you do not reach what we call the wicked collaboration. The optimal solution of collaboration for organizational sustainability is where the factors are balanced in such a way that there are sufficient benefits but fewer challenges, what we call optimal collaboration. However, if collaboration is excessive, then the challenges increase significantly, and thus there are limits to growth of collaboration. As we state on the paper, the best led collaboration for organizational sustainability can go awry if allowed to go unbridled. Thank you very much. Spasiba.
Okay, thank you. It was very fast. Okay. Many thanks for this. I think that you can ask one question and go further.
I will put the screen in case people want to look at the paper.
Yes, yes. So those who don't want to wait for the presentations can make a print screen and use this link. Yeah. Okay, I see. Thank you. And so I think we don't have questions right now, but we have more to presentation. So Rodriguez, thank you for your presentation and sharing with us with very interesting results of your survey. And we will go to the next presentations by Jacques Bazin. So you're here, please. You're welcome.
Yep, thank you. Good afternoon. Thank you very much for inviting me for the conference once again. I'm very pleased to be here, and I will try to speed up my presentation a bit so that we don't have too much extension of the time. My presentation is about very much of an applied science project. So it's a project that I'm working on, very concrete project with several questions that I would like to ask probably from you here this afternoon, and maybe you can give some good suggestions. It's about energy retrofitting of the current housing stocks, Peter has mentioned already in his presentation about energy retrofitting of schools. At the moment, we are working in the Netherlands on possibilities for automation and industrialization of this retrofitting thing. And I totally agree with Mrs. Sunderland, who said that the construction sector is not the easiest one to convince to be innovative. So there is some challenges there. Of course, to start with, we have the Paris Agreement, as you all know, with the obligation to go towards energy neutral buildings as much as possible. And in the Netherlands and in several other countries, we've tried in the North Sea region, we've joined forces and tried to find out what can we do to make energy retrofitting a reality. Energy retrofitting is done, normally spoken, by putting some extra panels in front of the walls and also on the on the roofs, and that provides a lot more energy savings. And of course, systems like gas connections usually are changed by electronic heat pumps, etc., and so on and so forth. So the challenge is very simple, which I want to lay out here. It's a project of the North Sea region, and many other countries have the same problem, but here are 7 countries that want to do something about it. The building stock in these 7 countries emits 79 megatons of CO2 every year. That's a lot. And according to the Paris Agreement and according to our wishes of having a more sustainable society, we would like to reduce that very significantly. There are 2 problems. The costs of retrofitting of current houses is too high, and the speed with which it can be done is too low. And that, that's really a challenge. So technically, it's not so much of a problem to retrofit. I mean, it's done already many times, and it can be done. And technically, it's not the issue. The materials are not that much expensive. It's mainly done with styrofoam and some decoration layer. The problem is the labor intensity of the problem of the process, which starts with measuring the house, you know, very accurately. Where are the windows? Where is the door? Etc. etc. Then the production process, because it's all unique, more or less, products. The production process is, you know, requires a lot of manual labor. And then the on-site assembly, once again, requires a lot of manual labor. And that means that it's very, very expensive. So what is needed? The challenge is, how can we industrialize this, this production process and mounting things? It's not easy, because there is so much unique types of dwellings. It's barely possible to get economies of scale, as you probably can imagine. So what is there now in terms of companies that do retrofitting at this moment? You can see there on the right side of the screen, a very nice warehouse there, but a lot of manual labor in constructing the panels. What we would like to have is on the left one, sort of automated factory with very few people who do the work. So there is a project formulated that I'm also one of the workers on this, researchers on this project, North Sea region project into zero. And we would like to reduce the costs and increase the speed. And here you see a couple of examples of energetic retrofitting that from the last couple of years. And actually, so these more or less older houses look pretty nice and new again when they are retrofitted. So yeah, the idea what we have with the project is to develop mass customization, and that is of course a very nice idea, but you can practically do it only with the development of an Industry 4.0 production process and smart factory thing. Now, we have worked with many different partners to develop the machinery, the equipment to do this. So it is possible. One of the innovations, for example, is to scan the house instead of, you know, measuring it, but to scan a house and make a 3D digital twin. You can imagine it's not very easy to do. And you see on the right side a small drawing of where at all places you have to put the scanners, you know, in order to make a good, valid millimeter accurate model. And that model is being used by the system to produce automatically these renovation and roof panels. It's a complex process, and not only the production needs to be tackled, but also the on-site assembly. And you can imagine, if you see here, before and after retrofitting example of a couple of houses here. Windows have to be removed, doors have to be removed. this kind of sunscreens, jalousies have to be removed. The roof has to be removed, the roof tiles, very labor-intensive process and therefore very costly. So what we are currently working on, and this is so to say the main part of the presentation, is about the business case of this factory. If you want to build this smart automated factory, that, well, we have estimated that it is a 200 million euro investment with 20 hectares in size, and therefore we really need to develop a very solid blueprint with a solid business case for an investor or a group of investors. And well, we looked at a number of topics. I will not go too much in detail, but I assume that most of you or all of you are aware of and familiar with Alexander Osterwalder's business model, Canvas, that we used, and also this value proposition. Canvas, we tried to find our target groups, customer segments. I will briefly mention them here. The owner-occupied houses, private homeowners. You have owners' communities who just jointly have, for example, a flat. Then there is the social housing associations, which have the social rental housing, and of course there is many private and institutional investors, people who don't live there but have still a lot of real estate property. So these are the customer segments. And yeah, the biggest customer segment, obviously, at least in the Netherlands and in many other North Sea region countries, is the private homeowners. But this is a very challenging business case for the reasons that you can see here on this page. If you add the insulation, if you add the panels, the housing is estimated to be 25,000 euro extra worth. This is based on sales of previously retrofitted houses. Residential, the energy bill goes down. Expected cost of retrofitting with the new process is about 70 to 75,000 euro. Currently, that is about 120,000 euro. So you can imagine that there is a long payback time, 230 to 265 months, 25 years. That's too long for most homeowners, as we found out. Maybe a slightly easier business case is the one for social housing associations, because they have binding agreements with the government. It was already mentioned before here in the presentations, to have their, the absolute net zero status of their housing stock. So they have a bit longer planning horizon, and there is some rules about asking for extra or a surcharge on the rent in case of net zero retrofitting. So then these housing associations can take part of the previous energy bill of the homeowner, of the renters. And if there is lower cost, then it means that the financial ratios of these things are less under pressure. So they are absolutely willing to work with us to find out what we can do. Here you see the amount of residential units in the Netherlands. That's about 30%. So that's a very huge amount of housing. In Germany, the other country that is close to us and that we would like to develop the factory for both the Netherlands and part of Germany, it's only 5%. So that is a lot less. Yeah, there is of course some limitations. I will not put much time on this one. These are the housing associations, the common housing stock as we have it in the Netherlands and also in Germany. And I suppose in Russia you also recognize this type of apartment buildings, your Khrushchevkas and so on. Yeah, this kind of housing. It's very easy to retrofit it energetically, but then again, the costs are still rather high. So if you want to to take a look at some of the benefits for them on total cost of ownership model for them. It turns out that this system, these retrofitted houses, they require less maintenance, but it's only like 125 per month usually in difference. That's not a lot. Then there is a possibility to have a rental surcharge for the energy efficiency, because the renters don't have basically too much of an energy bill left. So there is also a possibility to catch about 200 euros a month, which means also with these organizations about still a payback period of 20 years. So it's a very challenging case still. So cost reduction, more cost reduction would be helpful, but this is of course hard to achieve. And the problem is, if the retrofitting is at this moment too costly, housing associations cannot spend too much money on it, because then their financial ratio and their financial situation becomes very much under pressure. And it has as a very other negative consequence that they are not able to build a lot of extra housing then, which makes the situation that the housing market then becomes pretty much overheated. So yeah, since it's such a considerable investment sum in a smart factory, which can really help to produce a lot of needed retrofitting panels, the business case is still quite difficult. Probably we need some business model innovation here. We investigated leasing options, so that we talk about this ownership. Mrs. Sunderland has already discussed about ownership options and so on, but unfortunately, at least in the Netherlands, that's not allowed by law. Real estate which is fixed to the house, you cannot lease. And so you have a number of other things which, the law actually works against you. But yeah, that is something we are still working on. And I hope next year at this time, there is another conference that we have some solutions for this. But in the meanwhile, if you have some suggestions for us in terms of ownership models, in terms of business model innovation, we would be very thankful for your suggestions. That is briefly what I wanted to share. So thank you very much for your attention. And
thank you.
Yeah.
I think Jackie will find some suggestions in chat. So there are presentations that shared with you, so you can find some ideas there. I can add that Moscow renovation program of housing is to demolish or pull down old buildings in city center and to construct the new ones. So,
yes, this we also of course calculated, but then in terms of circular economy, that is really not the best solution.
Yeah,
you have a lot of waste, and nothing is so much energy polluting in terms of construction as to make new concrete. So if you can somehow use what you have, it is extremely useful, I would say. But and again, this is yes,
that's what you should make a presentation to our local governments. Okay. Okay, I see. Thank you one more time for your interesting presentation, and we will go to the last presentation in this section, Julia Krause. So please, you're welcome.
Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to talk well, and I will try to be as fast as I can. I would like to share my screen with you.
Okay.
So I suppose you see my presentation now. Well, I'm going to talk to you about the possible way to implement sustainability into operations at universities, at higher educational institutions. Well, and my presentation is linked with what Paulo was talking about, well, actually, and I'm giving kind of an answer to her last questions. So how it can be done, so what universities can do to implement and maybe to assess, well, their activities in terms of sustainability. I call it matryoshka. Well, first of all, I will tell you why there was a need, why I decided to develop such a model, what is it about, what does this matryoshka consist of, what are those issues well we have to consider, and at the end, of course, the holistic approach, because it is important to consider all the stakeholders. We say it is important to consider all the SDGs and, of course, different levels, different activities at universities. So to start with, well, as I said, maybe some of us also said, well, at the beginning, we at universities want to be the best ones. Yeah, we want to be the drivers of sustainability. We want to be the pioneers. We want to push that topic, and we want, of course, different other stakeholders to follow us. But as we know, to be that driver, well, we have to change the world, well, we have to change ourselves. So we have to implement sustainability at our universities. And of course, we also want to do it. There are some projects, there are some research topics, well, but it is not on a holistic way. And I checked, well, what is happening at universities in Saxony. There are, again, different projects, but there are no sustainability reports. This is something that would help us to identify maybe a possible model, a possible approach, well, like lots of companies, well, now are implementing. So in Saxony, not so good, maybe the picture, but what about the Germany in general? We have a wonderful initiative that's called Hohen, and here you see, well, the picture of all the people employed, involved. Well, these are not universities, but these are, well, individuals from different universities. We have over 300 universities in Germany, but we have just 5% of those universities who create sustainability reports. And only 12 universities, 5%, this is about 15 universities, and only 12 universities pay attention to all those dimensions we have spoken about, social, environmental, and so on. So, and what's the why it is why the picture is this way? So what's the problem? Well, and the reason, well, we say is there is no framework, there is no clear roadmap what can be done. There are lots of, once again, projects and ideas, but there is no holistic approach. We have sustainability examples, but no holistic approach. So, and therefore, well, we decided to create a framework, a roadmap, and to identify different topics. Well, and this is, well, within my matryoshka model. So why matryoshka? Once again, those maybe who attended our conference last year might be acquainted with this model. I used it within a business context, and now I projected it onto university level, university lives. Well, first of all, matryoshka stands for creativity, for going new ways, for thinking out of the box. This is what we want to achieve, and what is needed, of course, well, to create sustainability. It is about complexity. It is about interdependencies between different stakeholders, between different topics. Well, as we heard today, also lots of time. It is about interdisciplinarity. Well, we have to tackle all those problems from different angles, from different subjects, to different faculties, and so on. And of course, it is about fitting together. So we cannot pay attention just to environmental issues, well, and neglect, for example, social issues. Well, they all those topics, well, have to complement each other. And therefore, well, we have 5 matryoshkas. So I developed 5 matryoshkas, 5 dolls, well, standing for different issues. Well, the first one, these are the core activities of the university. What are those core activities? Well, and I have my own definitions maybe of those activities. First of all, learning. Well, we have spoken about this issue well today also. This is about courses we offer to our students, right? In Germany, well, I checked the website. Well, you can see, well, how many different courses, well, are offered in terms of sustainability. We have about 50 different courses, well, students can attend at different universities. We have also one MBA for sustainable management. We have one university that focuses only on sustainability. These are the courses, but someone asked also in the chat whether it is enough to offer courses. Of course not. We have also to try to implement sustainability into different courses, into other courses, not sustainable management courses. Like, for example, if we teach logistics, we can speak about sustainable logistics. We teach entrepreneurship, business models, we can speak about sustainable business models, and so on. The next issue, what is also very important, is not just we at university are not just to provide knowledge, but we also have to be able to teach. So, well, not just to give information, but to make it possible for students to learn, to understand, and to implement. This is about teaching tools. This is about didactics. It is about pedagogical approaches. Well, something Rodrigo also was working on. Next issue, educating. What do I mean by educating? Well, learning is the stuff, the knowledge, the topic. But by learning, for example, logistics or sustainability management, we teach different skills and different competences, which is also very important to be like problem solving or creativity or communicative skills or analytical thinking, design thinking, and so on. Well, and this is also important that we focus not just on knowledge, but also on the skills and competences of our students. And the last one, of course, research. Lots of universities pay attention to research. It is important to do research on sustainability issues, but also to check, well, what sustainability values we deliver within other maybe research topics that are not connected with sustainability in a direct way. The second issue is governance, organizational studies, organization of university. First of all, strategy. We have spoken, lots of universities have strategies like internationalization or digitalization today. But if we want to drive sustainability, we need sustainability as a top priority, as a strategy of a university. Very few universities have this as a strategy, what is important. Lean management, it's about no bureaucracy, it's about digitalization, maybe it is about transparency of all the decisions at university. Procurement is an important issue. Infrastructure, buildings, and so on. Services, well, we provide at universities like conferencing and event management or canteen and so on. Well, there are lots of issues, well, we can tackle within this Matryoshka doll. The third one, internal stakeholders. Under internal stakeholders, I understand all the employees, of course, teaching staff, administrative staff, not to forget. Of course, they also have need this information and education in terms of sustainability, and of course, students. And such topics as regenerative leadership, emotional leadership, growth, opportunities to grow for everyone. Health and safety, work-life balance today is very important issue. Remote working, flexible working hours, and so on. Support diversity, inclusion are those issues, well, we can tackle. Next one, external stakeholders. Here, well, we have also to see, and we have spoken today also about our outreach, well, to other stakeholders of our society, businesses, industries, and social institutions, and so on. We have to communicate about our research, about what is going at our university. We have to educate also other stakeholders. There are wonderful examples also from Saxony. We provide, for example, university for pensioners, for old people, provide university for young children, and so on, to come into interaction, well, with different stakeholders at different social levels. Collaboration, we have spoken, well, a lot. It is important, well, first of all, to collaborate between different faculties. Silo thinking we heard today, right? It is very important that we work all together towards one target, to collaborate between different universities. When I was a student, well, almost 30 years ago, well, I didn't want to study at one university. I wanted to go to different universities, and this might be the future. Well, the students want also this experience. We have to collaborate to offer double degree programs, to offer opportunities, well, for students, but also for academic staff. We also heard it today, well, very important, well, to get that experience. And transfer, also an important topic today. We usually speak within our university context about transferring our knowledge from university to industry, but what is also important to transfer information and knowledge back from industry to university to work on topics that businesses and industries will have to find solutions for them. And the last one, well, environmental issue. Well, we have lots of different topics. Well, I will not speak a lot on them. And green campus, well, this is something, well, we try to achieve at different universities, right? But I also want to pay attention just to the fact that there was a very interesting research done by the impact ranking, showing that lots of Western universities in Europe, for example, pay attention to SDG 10, 11, for example, sustainable cities, sustainable infrastructure. This is very important for us. Whereas universities in Asia, for example, pay attention to the first or to the second SDGs. And I would suggest that it is maybe not sustainable enough if we think only about those issues that are in front of our door. We have also to think a little bit globally and try to find solutions for the whole world and not just for our society, not just for our city. So these are those 5 Matryoshka dolls The benefit maybe and the advantage well of this model is that you can use this model for every industry, for every business. Well, you have just to adjust all those topics well within that particular industry or that particular business. And well, at the end, of course, it is important to have that systemic view, to see all the stakeholders, to see all the topics. It is important to communicate with each other, to work towards each other. It is important to establish a culture. This is a huge topic, to have a culture of collaborating, of working together towards one goal, not against each other. And well, collaboration, well, once again is here. And by collaboration, well, I mean also, well, different stakeholders, collaborating with different stakeholders. So that's all. I tried to be as fast as I can. And I hope, well, I could inspire you to give some impulses. Maybe you are free to adjust this model, to use it, or maybe to have some suggestions. Well, it is something, well, we are still developing. So there are lots of issues where we can work together on. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for your interesting approach. And if we have any questions, please, we can make a little very short conversation, or we can just share our opinions about our section. Diana Vladimirovna, will you say something?
Yeah.
So.
Так, Radhika here or?
Yeah, no, he had to leave, yes.
Unfortunately, okay, because I have a question for him.
Maybe I can here say a big thank you to Julia for giving this overview, which I think really gave us a good short and good view of what you can do at university. This model should be shared to all universities. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. Well, I was really, I was looking for your feedback. Well, I would like to know and to see, well, how you think about this model. Yeah. Okay, thank you very much.
What about university? Do you have report? Your university?
No, we don't. We do not have a report. Yeah. Well, we are not among those 12 universities. No. So we are still on the way to find out the way. And this Matryoshka doll might be possible way. Also to compare, you know, well, to have a roadmap and to be able to compare the results of different universities, right?
I have a small question for Jacques. Jacques, what do you say? Could you say some approximately cost for renovation of private house? I mean, more typical. Hold on.
Yeah, if it's it depends, of course, on how big it is. But a private home, which is so to say semi-detached. Sorry?
Typical, no, I mean the middle.
Typical house. No, now at this moment it would cost about 120,000 euros with the current, you know, production process.
Mm-hmm.
And
how much once, please? How
120,000.
120,000
euros, not rubles, unfortunately.
I understand, not rubles, of course.
But
no,
I wish it was like that, of course, but no, unfortunately not. So about 120,000, we can, you know, in our collaboration with the industry and other universities and housing associations and construction companies, we have now brought that down to about 70 to 75,000 euros, which is a huge cost reduction by this automation. And yeah, we hope that this, well, of course, every cost reduction helps, but
how do you say what is this is a cost, but it's necessary to compare with income, family income, for example.
Yes. And
so because it's impossible without
yes.
without this figure. How much is it? I mean, Because it's not so high, but it depends on income without taxation, minus taxation, of course. And because if we compare cost and effectiveness from that, because not so many energy to have, because many useful for family too, not only cost. I understand not only 1 year, and don't know how many years is necessary to effect of this investment.
Yes, the payback time at this moment is about 20 to 22 years for an average family, which is of course a lot. And that means, normally spoken, there is not a lot of families who have like 78,000 just on a shelf or on the bank and just can pay and say, okay, please do it. So there is, of course, we are very much in collaboration also with governments to see if there is some possibilities to have this extra green mortgage stuff so that people can go to the bank and get even lower interest rate, but it's not anymore too much of a big issue, because interest rates in the Netherlands and in Germany and in many other Western European countries is 1%, maybe 1.5%. So that's not probably not the biggest issue, the financing. Of course, the direct profit that you will have when you make this renovation is that your energy bill goes almost immediately to almost zero, which is a serious cost saving for many families. But still, 20 to 22 years of payback period is for many private homeowners, many private families, simply too much. I mean, from our market research.
But not only zero emission, but energy saving for householders.
Yes, it's zero almost. Energy bill, energy.
Yes, and energy saving of head. Is it right? Not only this is it not only for zero emission, but only for the saving.
Yes, but if you save, then you do not emit, of course. If you save energy, then you don't have to get it first, so you don't have to burn fossil fuels or something. So if you save energy, that helps always. With anything, and what you still need, there is solar panels on the roof of these packages, so that also brings the needed electrical energy, and you can heat the house also with electricity with a heat pump, for example.
Oh, very interesting presentation. And if we look at the presentation of Peter's, so many ideas and so many suggestions of decision, it's very interesting.
I have to tell you that the challenges are very, very large in the sense of first the technical issues, and these are usually not the worst. The technical issues is solvable, but it's about business, the business side of it, and the public acceptance, and I mean that's a really headache. I don't know how Peter's experience is in this, but.
Yes, very interesting.
I think I'm super pleased to see that some of the Danish pension funds are committing themselves into sustainable investment, and they have this 20-year long perspective. They actually basically the revenue are like secondary in their investment. So energy retrofitting of social housing is actually like a standard good for every Danish pension fund. And I think sustainable investment, or perhaps green bonds, as I very briefly mentioned, is perhaps a way forward. In the city of Gothenburg in Sweden, they are saying that I think 25% of all their climate initiatives are by 2022 funded by green bonds. It's not just like very large projects. It's also like a smaller energy retrofitting of public schools or like new bike infrastructure in the city. So green bonds and sustainable green investment is the key to perhaps address energy retrofitting in social housing. But I also, Shaka, I really encourage you to try to make a deep dive on this initiative called Climate Kick. It's where I worked before. It's the EU Commission's climate innovation arm, and they have made some deep demonstration projects. And one of them is specific on what does it take to energy retrofit 1 million homes in Europe. What challenge are they facing? What innovation is needed? What type of investment is needed? It's an ongoing project. They would be pleased to speak with you, a practitioner like yourself, which have a really good insight on the obstacles. So I think that's a perfect match for you. Let me know if you cannot find the contact details.
I saw it already. I was already copying it down because I will discuss with our project leader, which is from the province of Overijssel here in the Netherlands, one of the local governmental regions. And yeah, they are, I'm not sure if they know this organization, so we will definitely contact them and discuss about these issues. So thanks very much.
But the whole energy issue, it's you know, it's not it is a huge problem. Like in UK, they have concept as energy poverty. There are families around Western Europe which cannot afford to heat up the house during the winter. Mm-hmm. This is like a massive problem, and there are so many aspects in it. I hope next time we are meeting in St. Petersburg, we can have a dedicated focus on social housing aspects and energy retrofitting and up qualification of the social housing buildings.
Yeah,
I think that would be extremely interesting.
Yeah, this is a very big problem throughout of the entire Europe, indeed.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so we'll finish. Yeah, I think it's time to finish our section. Thank you for all representations. And what will be next? We will shift to Russian, I think.
Thank you very much for your participation, in this presentation. Unfortunately, no time to discuss more because so many, so many aspects in previous presentation. For example, social trust and so on. It's very interesting for me, for trust, for strangers. So trust maybe to government, because it's very for Russia, for example. I mean, most of all, social trust to government.
Yeah.
It's one of problem, for example. No time, maybe additional time, maybe additional some section or additional webinar in the autumn or next year. Maybe this is even more detailed, not second, but maybe fourth, because we realized 3 conferences during projects, this conference after project, because project is finished already. That's why maybe traditional next year or some early if necessary. Thank you very much. Nice to see you, everybody. And